Yeah, especially we would love to receive comments on this because we're gonna make so many mistakes, and that so maybe we might need someone to correct us, which is a lesson that the demons never learn. Don't mess with the women.
Demons or politicians, both of them.
I know,
And
feels like such an uncle moment of mine. The entire episode feels it's my transition to become an uncle.
No, but this is it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of SAHAJ Times podcast, the first episode of the new season. Welcome back, guys. We are really happy to be here to start again. It feels like a year since we released the last episode, and I must say that we've been thinking a lot. We've been discussing a lot about what we can bring, how can we improve this podcast, how can we make it more useful also. My name is Lele. I'm the host of this podcast, and with me, as always, for the fourth season, confirmed also for this year, Fabrizio. How are you, Fabrizio?
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be back. Are we at the fourth season or the third? Fourth.
Fourth.
This is the fourth year we're doing this.
Yeah.
The beginning of.
It's not really the fourth year because we started in 2023 and it's 2025. But we did some breaks. We took some breaks. So fourth season.
3 full years, 30 plus episodes, right?
Yeah, more or less.
Which I think is something that we wanted to share and talk today. I don't know if the people realize, but we moved from a monthly episode to, at some point, it got weekly episode, and probably moving forward, maybe every 2 weeks. What do we think?
Depends. I think we are always been testing this podcast. We've been testing ourselves and this podcast. And for this season, I was thinking actually the main topic will be to improve the Sahaj knowledge, which is cool for us because it's a stimulation for us to read and learn more, and to then join and discuss these topics without like a preachy attitude, without the ego to be like, we are here to teach you something, but it's like to conversate about this stuff.
Right. And it's always a conversation.
Yeah. And just for this purpose, we were struggling with this episode because the Navaratri puja is approaching. We wanted, at least I wanted to make a Navaratri puja explained episode, but it felt a bit wrong. It felt a bit difficult also because it's really complex. And so until this morning, we wanted to make an explanation of the puja. But like a few hours ago, we chatted and we were like, just join the call, just have a conversation about it, just have fun. Because we've been studying a little bit. We wanted to bring, to the table of the conversation what was really interesting for us to learn about this puja and things that we should know because we've been doing this for, I don't know how many years, 26 me. I don't know how many years you, Fabri. But things that we should know, but sometimes we don't really know. We have to go back and study them again.
Exactly. And it was super interesting. So I think we'll see how it goes, but we'll try to do this maybe every time before a major puja to do a little bit of an in-depth study, maybe, yeah, and sharing about the topic. As Lele said, I think it's important. This is not a lesson about the puja. Is what we enjoyed reading of a speech of Shimaraji, a particular book, or the names of the deity. We just go through it, and then we just share some nice things with you. I think that would be the idea, and it's quite fun. And maybe next time we even do it with a guest. We'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, especially we would love to receive comments on this because we're gonna make so many mistakes and that we so maybe we might need someone to correct us sometimes if we say something wrong, but we will see.
You
We'll
know
see.
what? You know what reminds me? When I was in New York, I had to, when I was the coordinator, I had to send very long messages to sometimes to explain stuff to either the council or to the people. And I used to do sometimes mistakes on purpose, grammar mistakes, very obvious one, to see if anybody wrote back, to see if they were actually reading the mail. And they were, and they would just write back. It's like, did you mean? I'm like, yes, okay, you read the email.
Okay. The person was reading.
And after sometimes they caught up. They're like, "Are you doing this kind of mistakes on purpose?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was."
Because or you make it on purpose or you're just really, really dumb to always make the same grammar mistakes.
Exactly, exactly. So no, it's
So
quite
that's why
funny.
we are actually inviting people to listen to the full episode.
Very
Mm,
cool. All right, so
yeah.
should we get it started?
Yeah, let's do it. And first of all, from where should we start? I mean, Fabri, what did you read first of all, and what did you find interesting
Let, yeah.
to discuss?
Let's share the methodology of the study. So I focused a bit more on something that I actually really like doing. I love reading the names of the deities, and not just for this episode, but actually in general. Every time, if I have, I don't know, to lead a puja or to do something or to help with anything on a particular puja, I really love reading the names of the deities slowly, highlight the one that I want to remember. And this actually, a yogi told me that. It's like, why is it important to read the names? Is because you need to establish an individual relationship with that deity. You really need to know what that deity is about. And when you read the mantras in Sanskrit, then you need to read the English translation because you need to understand what you're saying and you need to absorb it. So this is something I love doing it, even with, and you're gonna laugh because we are 10 minutes into the podcast. I'm already bringing in parenting. I love doing this with my kids sometimes because what we do is we read the names, and I realize that at their age, because they're very young, half of the things they don't understand. So sometimes we stop on a name, and I'm like, "Do you know what this means? Do you know why this deity got this name? Do you know what the meaning of it?" And I think really it increases the depth of your understanding of your own chakras and the deity. So that's what I did mostly. What about you, Lele? What did you focus on?
So basically, I was trying to focus more on the 9 nights, also because that is the meaning of Navaratri, if I'm not wrong, it means literally 9 nights. And on every single aspect, a good aspect that we actually worship during these nights. And also, I read that the Devi Mahatmyam. Why though? This is, I mean, to me at least, it was interesting because I got the David Mahatmyan from an uncle for my birthday. Because
Nice.
I did like the Ganesha Atarva Shirsha episode, and then I was invited during a seminar to talk about this, in front of like new people, and he gave me like this book, and it was like this should be next. So after 1 year, I think it's time to bring it. And what I would like to add to what you said is my type of favorite names are the ones that the deities took from killing Rakshasas.
Obviously.
The one that you have
Everyone.
to do without Shri, you have
Yes.
to sing without Shri, but like Chamunda one, like
The,
those are my favorites.
those are the one that you say louder with so much convictions and
The
and,
one that you
and
scream during the
yeah.
Havan when
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. I think it's a common thread. I would imagine, even when you read, the one that grinds the demon to dust, something like that. Like it is so satisfactory, to read those names. to enjoy
Yeah,
this.
those are the ones you have to scream, while the other ones that are more gentle are the ones that you have to like donate, to the fire. And
Yes.
some are the ones that you have to throw to the fire.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Navaratri that I find really interesting is that just like in Sahaja Yoga, there is no gray zone in the Navaratri. So since it's like a period of constant war between yourself, the war between Mahishasura and Shikalki is like an allegory, of the
Yeah.
war that we have to face within ourselves.
Absolutely.
And it's interesting how there is no gray zone, and you just have to see what is going to happen in this period, because it's a really tough period. I
Yeah.
read in the book that Chris Marlowe wrote about this Navaratri Puja is that the gates of hell and the gates of heaven, they're like wider, which
Yeah.
means more exposure towards Srimadaji in the moment that you start worshiping her, and then it gets easier to get closer to her, but
Yeah.
also the gates of hell are wider, so it's also easier to like fall on the other side, and usually is way easier to go towards negativity rather than going towards like the holiness and the divine in general.
Yeah. I agree. I feel it's a bit like you could call it an amplifying force, right? And
Mhm.
depending where you are, if you are on the path to righteousness, you just go faster to heaven. And if you are on the other side of, sin and negativity, it's more slippery. It's a time where things are more slippery. Yeah, definitely is a puja that is very felt. Actually, even vibration. I don't know if you had this, but I feel definitely Guru Puja and Navaratri are pujas that I really feel physically. Like it
Mhm.
happened to me last week. I was feeling pain in my heart, and I don't know, maybe it's also something medical, but I was like, why am I having this every meditation, heavy, heavy, heavy in my heart? And often with Guru Puja happens, stomach problems, before the puja. Like it's a puja that you really work out a lot, even physically before. It's very
Mhm.
powerful, strong one.
Yeah, and I think it's also interesting to mention this stuff also to get more ready for the pujas.
Yeah,
You know,
prepare.
if
Absolutely.
you like focus that month for the Navaratri, and you don't have to focus like crazy, just read the Devi Mahatmyam. Also, we do it every single year for the 9 nights. We read a little
Yes,
bit every single day, so we are
exactly.
kind of prepared. But we don't do
Exactly.
that for the other pujas. So it's like for the
Yeah.
Diwali, what do we do for that month? Just to get
Yeah.
ready, just to.
Actually, I forgot about this. I just remember in the US, something that was fantastic. Uh, the collective actually got together every night for the 9 nights of Navaratri. People left work early. I think it's the only country where I've experienced that. Now, in Switzerland, of course, it cannot happen because we all go to Cabela because we're all country. So there are different reasons. But it never actually occurred to me. In the US, we used to have every night at somebody's house in different houses. And it was so
Mhm.
extremely powerful. The collective came together, and you really had this vision of, oh, shield and sword. I'm ready. Let's go. Like get out of work early and let's go for the fight. It's actually extremely beautiful. I just realized. I think it's a very powerful thing to do. Like if you live in an ashram or if you're in a small collective where you can easily reach each other, to do the nights together could be actually extremely powerful.
I think people already do that. I feel like it's not really something that you might do on your own, even though it's a moment of deeper introspection. But also we need to be a little bit more together vibrationally and physically,
Yeah,
because we have to face something in this period,
yeah,
and
I
it's not
agree.
easy.
I agree.
But for example, let's go a little bit more in depth about the things that we wanted to bring. I don't know if you wanted to mention something.
Yes, actually would like to start with this one because it's what you should always start with. One thing that I liked a lot is that there are, if you go to the 100 to the names, actually, sorry, the 84 names of Shri Durga, many of them are linked to chastity, and I thought it was very interesting. So she's the virgin goddess. She's the supreme virgin. You know, she's Brahmacharini. There are so many names that refer to her power of chastity. And as I was meditating upon it, as I was saying the names, I really realized that's where all the cosmic power comes from. You know, because when you think of Shri Durga, you think of course, the weapons and the killing of the demon. Is like the power, you know, the destroying power. But the truth is that all of that comes from the cosmic innocence of Sri Ganesha. And I really like it. And you see, I think even Sri Vishnu Maya, Sri Krishna, all the deities that have this destroying power, which comes from Shri Kali, are rooted in the power of chastity and you know, the virgin and innocence. And I think this is very important for us as yogis. I think especially also to explain to the yuvas, because ultimately your greatest weapon as a yogi is your innocence and your chastity, the ultimate, you know. And I feel sometimes we have so many chats, but what if I fell in love with this guy? Oh, but I've heard Shimaji said we can go out and pick somebody, but how you get married actually doesn't matter. What matters is, do you have that power of chastity in yourself? Because that is what cosmically allows you to do great things in Sahaj and, you know, in the world. So to me, the first thing that glanced to my eyes was this: was how strongly rooted the power of the Devi is in the innocence of Sri Ganesha and, you know, the power of Sri Kali ultimately. So that was the first thing that came to my eyes.
But I would like to add something also, because for the way you put it, I know we are talking about the goddess, but it also like is something also for the man, you know, because you mentioned
Absolutely,
like from a
absolutely.
girl perspective, but it's not only, you know, the girls that have to be, you know, also
No,
the boys.
absolutely. As a yogi, the boys even more maybe, because one other thing also, I remember when I came to Sahaj, I read this speech, and it became my dream of life. You know, like Shimaji said, if you have innocent eyes, if you have really Sri Ganesh in your eyes, it will take one look for you to raise somebody's kundalini. And I think in another quote, if I remember well, is like, you know, somebody with the power of innocence can destroy boots just with the sight. Uh, and that was it. When I heard that, I'm like, oh my god, I need to get to that point. You know, it's like became my obsession of life. I want to have that innocence. So I think it's if you want to be an effective yogi, regardless of if you're man, woman, young, old, you actually cannot have no power without that. Ultimately, that's it. You have no power to do anything without that basic power, which is is the fuel to everything, right? But anyway,
But
it surprised me when I read through it.
But what is surprising me is that I went to the same conclusion, but on the other side, because reading the Devi Mahatmyam, I was like, wow, there is always a problem when there is ego involved, which
Yes,
is like, if you think like the opposite of chastity and innocence, people
for
are like
sure,
innocence. Innocence is there when the ego is not there,
for
and
sure,
when the ego is there, the demons are there.
of course,
You know, this is like the second dualism that we can see actually in the Navaratri. You know, the
absolutely.
war between good and evil, but also between ego and actually everything else. I think the main problem always been ego.
And isn't it interesting? That's another thing that came to my attention, is that all these demons, which for some reason are disproportionately men, uh, they always disrespect the chastity of women. They try to kidnap Sri Sita. They enslave women. They, you know, there is a consistent lack of innocence, and which often is what creates a demon. Right? You step onto the demon category in the moment your innocence is completely gone. Right? So it's very interesting how it's so cliche to say everything is reduced to Sri Ganesha. It is like such an obvious, like, guys, we didn't need a podcast to for you to say that. but it is ultimately it's it. There's really nothing else that you can really reconduce to. It's Sri Ganesha is like at the base of everything. It's just fantastic. Another one, very unique that I found. This is something that, um, for me particularly, I struggle with this, but I think many people too. Another name that I really liked, I didn't write down the Sanskrit version, but the English translation says, "She is the psyche, which is the force that combines the earth, the heart, and the mind." Now, the only other deity that I found that has the power to bring the mind and the heart together was Sri Vishnu Maya. I didn't know, I had never noticed that there was any other power that there has the any other deity that has the power to bring together the heart and the mind, which I think in the moment you figure that out, you've you sorted out Sahaj, right? In the moment you can think with your heart and feel with your brain. It is the goal that we will have. So to me, it was really powerful because I feel I always have this problem of I either become a bit too mental or too emotional, and the people around me are also a bit like that. And I always knew the Sri Vishnu Maya name, which is the one that connects the heart to the mind. But I didn't know that there was another deity that had this power. That was another thing that I found it extremely interesting.
Yeah, also Sri Vishnu Maya, she is the daughter of Mahakali, no? She's like an
Yeah,
aspect of Shikali.
exactly, exactly, exactly.
And even there, we were talking about this, the thunder and the way she kills the demons is always interesting. She has like this double effect on the good and evil.
Yeah,
Like she kills the demons with her thunders, and then she also announces yogis. It
yeah,
happens to me every time I go like to my house in Umbria. I don't know why people always make fun of me,
yeah.
the people from my small village, because every time we go there, there is always rain. There are always thunders, and in our mind, I'm like, okay, maybe it's like Shri Vishnu Maya, but I don't want to have like to get involved with like an ego, or be like,
Yeah.
Shri Vishnu Maya is announcing me, guys. Let's wait
Yeah.
for the barbecue. We can do it tomorrow. Today is announcing, but it is also really everything is really really much connected. Everything is really much connected.
I think this thing of the announcement is also interesting because there are a few tapes in which Shimaraji, especially in Cabella, where you're in the anger and the noise of the rain is very easy to hear. There's quite a few tapes when she speaks about the nature announcing her, and literally it start like raining like crazy, and then this blessing, this pouring of Shrindra, and comes there to receive the deity. Of course, Shimaji is announced. We as yogi, as a reflection of her, we're not really announced. We just happen to be there in the auspiciousness of the vibrations. But yeah, that's the power of nature that responds to vibrations ultimately. Yeah.
Yeah, really cool. And I would like to reach another point that maybe I want to do it slowly. I want to do
Yeah.
it really slowly because I know that's a topic that you will love. And that's also really interesting topic because in the Devi Mahatmyam,
Yeah.
there are like 6 7, I don't remember how many demons. We have the stories of these demons getting killed because the Devi Mahatmyam is a part of the Markandeya Purana.
Yeah.
And in that book, like he explains, every single he actually tells you a story. Like in
Yeah.
many Indian scriptures, sacred scriptures, there's always a narrator telling you the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
And we see many demons, Madhu and Kaitaba at the beginning, getting killed by Shri Vishnu, after they came out from his ears while he was sleeping on Shishesha. And also on this, the animals, I'm really interested about the pantheon, of the, let's say, like human sort of like some sort of deities, and then the animals,
Yeah.
like they're like vehicles, but also like independent deity and entities, that
Yeah.
is really interesting to me. But we reach there is like some sort of an escalation because there are all these evil demons that are like under a chief, which is Mahishasura.
Yeah,
There is like some sort of hierarchy.
yeah,
Mahishasura is at the top. And every time he sends more demons, until the deities get also angrier and angrier, and then Shikali appears, and then she starts destroying everything. But especially one that we love, there is like maybe the best fight, which is the one against Raktabija.
yes,
I don't
yes.
think I don't know if we also say the name Raktabija without the Shri. I don't know if it's like mentioned in the names. I don't remember that. Chandamunda
Yeah,
for sure.
he's in the names. Yeah, she's the slayer of Raktabija for sure.
Okay. Because I don't know how it change in Sanskrit, but for example, Chandamunda becomes Chamunda if I'm not wrong. With
Yes,
Raktabija, I don't remember how it changes, but it's
yeah,
really interesting how he got defeated because Raktabija has this really interesting thing that at every single drop of blood touches the ground of his blood that touches the ground, a new Raktabija appears.
yeah,
And we are mentioning demons that are so strong that even all the male, which is of course is a symbolism, is an allegory,
yeah.
not even one could defeat them on his own. We needed like the goddess to do that.
The Shakti
Yeah,
power. Yeah,
the Shakti to counterbalance also all everything. But at
absolutely.
every single drop, a new Raktabija would appear, and it would take forever to defeat it. But what happens? She turns into Kali, if I'm not wrong,
Yeah,
and she starts drinking every single drop of blood before it touches the ground, so she can actually
exactly.
finally kill him. And this, I don't know why, just because we are basic males, but drinking the blood of the Rakshasas is something that both of us get so much
Yes.
invested to.
I mean, yes, actually, it's funny because I remember this again to me today or this week rather, was a bit of a culmination of a story that was always fascinating. Meaning, when we came to Sahaj with Adriano, who's been in the podcast a few times already, we used to be love these names, Shri Rakta Priya, Shri Rakta Dantika, the ones that is fond of the blood of demons, the one whose teeth are red like pomegranate for, the blood of demons. And I mean, it was the satisfaction, right, of knowing that she's completely demolishing the demons and almost enjoy as that happens, right? But I never really connected that there's a story behind. And exactly as you say, these two very powerful names come from the story of that. That is why she's fond of drinking the blood, is because it was a technique, it was a method to destroy that particular demon with a particular boon or power that needed to be destroyed. And I love when this happens in Sahaj, where you spontaneously, innately have an intuition and following certain things. And 13 years after, you kind of discover why, or the what behind it. It's absolutely fascinating.
But also, like, kind of makes you realize how important the names in Sahaj are. No, especially maybe
Absolutely.
just in the Indian culture, because if you look at my name, Lele, but is Emanuele, it means
Yeah,
God is with us, which is cute, but it's kind of, it's
yeah,
not, it's kind of poor, is not that much. But when you hear the names of the deities, like the goddess that drank every single drop of blood. I mean, that's something else. Of course, you would never
absolutely.
call your daughter or your son Raktabija
Yeah.
or Raktabija Mardini, but there is like a totally different level. And also imagine the stories that we have and that we can learn from, because everything I kind of noticed that every single problem that we have in our life, in our society, has already been resolved in those stories.
Millennia ago. I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
And that to me links back to the point that we made at the very beginning, which is you need to make a serious effort to establish your individual connection with the deity. Even reading a name that you don't necessarily know the story about this name, in the moment you put it into your sasrara, in the moment you say that name, maybe several times over the year, you establish that subtle connection for which at some point a random yogi will come to you and explain you the story behind the name, because it's in you now. Literally, you've created a connection. And I think that's what is important, is that if we start to making the effort, everything else around works around. As again, as I said, like I had such a moment, when I said, oh, the blood was spilling, she had to drinking, and that's where the name come from. I mean, it just made me so happy for no reason, because I felt like a closing of a circle for the past 15 years, right? It's very, very interesting.
And also just for Sahaj basic knowledge, and that is just
Yeah.
really helpful. And because
Yeah.
the more you know, the more you read what can happen and how to actually conquer. And I always put things like in a practical way, in life. So it's like, why did we have this story? Why should we read it? And how can we overcome different difficult moments in our lives?
Absolutely.
For
And I think,
example, no, no,
yeah.
go.
No, 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 finish. I'll.
No, no, non stavo per
Ah.
dire niente.
No, I was about to say, and the stories, of course, are cosmic, right? And they don't we don't directly copy from it, right? Like, Shimaji was saying, Shri Krishna killed the demons because he's a god, and there is no sin in his killing because he's a god. You are human, you don't go around killing people, right? Of course, the stories have to be interpreted in a symbolical way, a symbolic understanding. But I think even within that symbolism, there's really a lot to understand within our daily life. For example, this part of the fact that drinking the blood of the demons, absorbing that, to a certain extent, the negativity within you and working out as the goddess, it is a reflection of the work that you do as a yogi, right? For example, and this was another eureka moment for me, because sometimes last year, I don't know if you remember, we had the episode on negativity, the shades of negativity, I think it was called. And I shared in the episode the dream I had with Sri Durga. And at the end of the dream, Sri Durga killed these humongous demons and literally pack it up in a cake of blood. And she eats half of it. And then the other half is split among the yogis. And it was their job to consume that and release it through their meditation, to their purifying methods. So to me, that is very important, because I think as yogis, we need to become aware that, sometimes I even catch myself complaining, work is like this, why is this happening to me? And why the Swiss society is like that. There's a lot of that. Why are you facing all these problems? Because it's your job to solve them. Literally, you're not unlucky. It's not like God is not looking after you. You are. As an American right now, you have to deal with certain things. As an Italian, as a Swiss, you are put through certain situation. You have to work through certain chakras, because your job is to, and of course, God does most of the job. It's most of the block cake. But then there's the little crumbs that it's our job to go there and work throughout. So for me, the if you see, go through the names of Shituka, you really see that there is a reflection of a job that we need to do to cleanse up society, to fight that war, and feel that urgency that this is war. It's not like we don't meditate to relax. We don't meditate just to feel good ourselves. There is a war, there is a good and evil, and we need to work it out with compassion, with love, with all of that. But it is a war ultimately, right?
Well, I think we can debate on that. It depends
Yeah.
on the way we read stuff. Usually we actually teach other people that we meditate because it makes life easier. Makes you live in the present. And maybe just because you're like now a realized soul, a realized soul after that you awake your kundalini, maybe you're more keen to more negativity in case you don't do that. It's like you
Yeah.
have the knowledge, and if you don't do it, you're extra dumb. You're like extra stupid, and you deserve extra bad times. That kind of makes sense though, because for example, at the end of the Devi Mahatmyam, Shikari, she promises to the other deities that she will come back in the moment that Dharma is not respected.
Yeah.
And once you know that, the choice is only yours. Depends on where you want to be seen when she comes back. In which position do you want to be? Like the one against the Dharma, or the one in the favor of Dharma? Because if
Absolutely.
you find yourself in that, in thunderstorm, it's over. It's if you're like
Absolutely.
you find yourself in that dark side, is over. And now that is, I don't know, sometimes makes no sense if we think, I'm the first one that is a victim of this laziness. Sometimes it makes no sense once you know the stuff that we don't do the work that we should.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And also, to me, the other thing is, again, now also there are stages, right? Because I think, for example, you mentioned when you just get your self-realization. I think, of course, we shouldn't go to the opinions like, oh, come on, it's a war. Let the person enjoy the first few months, let them. And I think the higher you grow, the higher the battle becomes intense and subtle. So there are stages, and everybody's in different stages. So, of course, we don't need to go extremes. But
Also,
I
in
think,
the clash, there are stages
yeah, of
in the
course.
clash itself, because why do we have the dandiya, which is the stick dance? What does
Yeah,
it represent? The dandiya actually, I think after the Navaratri is people are used to dance with the stick dance. That is actually called dandiya,
yeah.
uh, because it's like some sort of play, which is turned into a dance of the fight between Mahishasura and Shrikali.
I
You
didn't know
know,
that.
that stick dance is the sword. The sound that we make with the stick are the swords that are fighting against each other, and that's like the celebration that comes after the clash. So even in the clash, there are like some sort of steps, and there are moments in which you have to be serious, and moments in which you have to celebrate for what you have conquered you
The
know
victory. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, again, going back to our role also, or the cosmic plane, if you wish, one other name that I read that I really enjoyed was, she's the mistress of the signs of war and battle. And again, to me, it goes back to even the story that we shared with Rakta Bija, which is, depending on the opponent that she destroyed so many demons. And every time she took a different, literally tactical approach, because she had to work around the enemy and the boons that the enemy had, right? And again, I bring it a little bit back to the Saja Yogis, because again, we're talking about there is a cosmic battle that is not us. But in our small world, that also happened. What does it mean? It means that, for example, society nowadays is bringing certain particular negativities that affect certain particular chakras. And while we don't need to become mental, we also need, in our own way, to become the master of the battlefield, to become the understanding of, okay, which negativity really is attacking the youth of Saja Yoga, which negativity is attacking the seekers for which they're not coming to Sahaj. And that really takes a deeper meditation, and it takes a longer meditation, because it's a different meditation. There's a meditation where you just foot soak, and you feel good about yourself, where you maybe work on yourself a bit, where you do a massage with your wife. That's great, and we should do that. But there is also a meditation where you should beat, where you do paper burn, where you give abundance with a specific topic on a specific country or such and such, right? And that's our battlefield. And that's something that we need to a certain extent, collectively exercise, plan, and become master of. Not just, oh, spontaneously whenever it comes to my mind. It's something I think we need to develop a bit more of that active attention that works through these problems.
Also because problems they shape inform. You know,
Exactly.
in
Exactly.
this the fight between Shri Durga and Mahishasura is an example. You know, Mahishasura is always changing form. You know,
Exactly.
from an elephant to a lion. It's always shaping. It's always changing. And I think they were fighting. I think I don't remember if Durga and Kali were fighting together, and maybe probably against Raktabija, because once was drinking the blood and the other one was fighting. But
Uh,
probably also with Mahishasura. I don't remember this. I'm sorry, guys. I have to I have to say sorry to someone at least. But also they shape and form in every single. There is like maybe a lesson if you start reading on the bottom line what is happening in every single chapter of the Devi Mahatmyam.
yeah.
You know, for example, Raktapija, every single drop can mean something. You know, can mean every single thought that when it burns is other thoughts start. You know, and then everything
Yeah.
gets really chaotic. And
Yeah.
before it actually drops, you have to kill that thought. You know,
Yeah.
to be like in total as awareness,
Yeah.
or like being able to change the tactic when you fight against negativity, against a problem in your life, because they shape form, just like Maisha's what I did. And there are other things also, the problems that comes from our minds, like Madhu and Kaitaba, they came out from Shri Vishnu's ear.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
every you have to learn how to read. We have to learn and practice how to read these moments.
Absolutely. And ultimately, you know what it is if you are in the present, if you are in thoughtless awareness, and you have that sense of urgency, you naturally gravitate toward that, right? I mean, I say that it's not like I do it. I have my moments, of course, when I'm better, when I'm worse. But ultimately, if you conduct the kind of life, it just becomes natural for you to do so. For example, we had this chat just yesterday night after the program. I was talking to some yogis, and we're talking about the problem of like Instagram and social medias for the yuvas, right? And I was explaining this. I'm like, you see, the social media are attacking the innocence right now of especially the young people in a manner that is oppressive, because like every day is a bombardment, right? And I was giving the example when I opened my Instagram account. So there was no history, there was no search, there was nothing. I was surprised to see how in my feeds it was full of like girls doing dances, like silly dances. And I'm like, why does just because I'm a man, the algorithm starts you with that, which I understand why market wise, they will do that. But what I'm thinking is, if I am a 15 years old boy who's maybe not fully stable in Sahaj, you recently got Safarization, or maybe your parents not really married, whatever, and I'm not fully stable, and I am exposed to that at 15. I mean, it's insane. And again, this to me goes back to, this is the battlefield where the demons are playing. And now I'm thinking, okay, in the collective, how often do I get to speak with the young people about this sorts of stuff? The last time I can remember was maybe the Swiss seminar we did with a little thing, maybe in Cabela here and there, but I would say at best once or twice I have, or higher, maybe some other uncles or aunties, have that kind of heart to heart conversation with the youths about the power of innocence, right? So it's your 2 hours once a year versus the 3-4 hours of Instagram per day that they're subjected to. And even if they don't have a phone, their friend in school and so on and so forth. And that's where, again, to me, I go back to that point, which is she's the master of the science of battle and war. Because on this particular topic of innocence, it is war. outside there in society. There is a war against innocence, against Sri Ganesha. And we need to level up our engagement on the topic. And again, that doesn't mean fanaticism, aggression, but it means pure knowledge being shared, pure experiences, vibrational experience being shared to match the negativity that is attacking from outside. And in my personal opinion, we are like, we're doing maybe 15% of the counter narrative of what these poor boys and girls are exposed to through social medias. So that's to me an example of where we need to probably up our game.
And somehow it always gets worse and worse. If you think about it now, maybe I'm too young for that, but no, for sure I'm too young. But the
Hmm.
first time that a television started appearing in other people's houses, people used to eat all together before. Then they started eating all together, but in more silent way because they were watching a television.
Yeah,
And then kind of was a little
yeah,
bit different. And now everyone kind of eat on his own, just
with a
with the
different
screen.
screen. Yeah, it's
Gets
crazy.
smaller, and we get more like alone somehow,
Absolutely, absolutely.
because the attention is somewhere else.
And again, to me, that is this is the sort of things that as yogis, I mean, and I tell you what you're describing. Whoever has kids that are such a yogis of this age, we're fighting this. Our daily, weekly fight here in my house is how much screen time you get, how much we allow you to listen to music, and this constant fight to exactly reduce that effect that you're talking about, that separation, the dysfunctionality of the family. And it's very hard for them to understand because as a little kid, you're faced with that. You just want more and more dopamine, right?
Mhm.
But again, I think, and that's why this podcast is great because we need to talk about these things to raise the awareness. And I hope that if somebody's watching this, they can bring this conversation to the collective. But again, not in a way that lacks compassion or love or understanding. It has to be done really through the sasrara, but it has to be done effectively and assertively. Because again, out there, that negativity is not taking one day of holiday, and we need to match that. We need to match that intensity. I give you another example. I don't want to be too long on this point, but yeah, I feel it's important. I was discussing with some yuvas, right? Some very good yuvas, including you, I think, and they were saying, this year it appeared that there were quite few marriages, and there were lots of people saying no. And maybe it's a fluke, maybe we don't know what the reason is, right? But there is some sort of a trend. And I spoke with different people. Again, people, I don't know the yuvas these days, so I'm receiving the stories from the yuvas that I know. And one thing they're saying is that people kind of say too easily no, as if it's some sort of a Sahaj Tinder matching exercise, right? um and then maybe there's some cases the case, some cases not the case. But when I see something like this, to me it raises a red flag. And I feel, and actually this happened to us when I was in New York. We had one year where I think we had 5 people applying, and they all say no at the same time, and in their own respective manners they all had a reason for saying no, which is fine. But I was like, man, something doesn't work. If 5 people out of 5 couldn't match, and statistically, how is it possible they all got matched in a weird way? So the next year we did a haven. The next year we did a haven for the marriages, and all those 4 or 5 people got matched, and it worked. Or maybe 4 out of 5, something like that. My point is, we need to really stay alert that there will be trends that take place in Sahaj. And I think from what I remember from the stories that we heard on this chat, on this podcast, uh, in the old times, Shrimaraji used to stop those trends before they went too crazy, or would guide the leader, saying, "Hey, you're being too soft on this, do this," or "Hey, you're being too harsh, soften up a bit." And she will guide that. Now we need to work with each other to develop that collective awareness, to address the trends as they're happening. And again, it sounds like it's a reasoning that is against spontaneity, which is also at the base of Sahaj, but it's not really it. It's enlightened planning, which means spend your times and meditation with a focus on something to really understand in depth why something happens. And this is not only the job of the leader, or I don't know, the War Foundation Central Committee, this such and such. It's the job of the yogis at every level who, they need to develop their collective awareness. So to me, that's it's a quite an important part.
I mean, it's of course, talking about starting from the Navaratri and talking about the
Uh,
negativity, we have to go somewhere else in a more like practical, definitely not practical and current situation, because you mentioned marriages and leadership, basically, which are the
yeah,
two main topic in which I think there is like some sort of collective confusion.
yeah,
Because for example, I never seen like leadership before when Shimadaji was there, but now it feels like more project managers more than leaderships. Now people that just have to organize things, and it can be
exactly.
a little bit confusing, can
I
be really.
agree. I
And about
actually remember. Sorry to cut, but I
yeah, yeah.
think you brought up something really important, that sometimes it's also a false. It's a false humility, because I remember when I was selected to be in the coordination group in New York, the person before me said, well, a few times before, I don't want to give away the person was, but the person was doing it, let's say 10 years before, within 10 years before, said, oh, don't worry, in Sahaj, there is no hierarchy, there is no leaders, and your job is only to send emails and coordinate the timing of stuff. Don't worry, don't feel too responsible. It's not about that. And I was like, you know what? I actually disagree. Like, if you're the leader, yes, of course, you have to send the emails or when the puja is, but you have to be alert and you have to work things out vibrationally. Again, it's not about, oh, I'm going to tell Lele what subject of school he needs to do or give up your job. It's not about that. It's not the authoritarian style, but it is that sense of vibrational responsibility and attentiveness. And leader used to be like that around Shimaraji. There's this story of Shimaji going to uh, a leader in Italy and saying, how's this guy in Puglia, a region that nobody knows about. And the leader would be, oh, he just finished school, da 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 da, he's studying this, he's studying that. Ah, okay. How's this guy in Florence? Oh, yeah, his marriage is not going well. But the leaders used to know everything about everyone as if they were their family. Now, again, I don't want to, it's hard to do that. It's not easy, and you don't have the physical presence of Shmaji to support you. But I think what you said is super important. We need to be careful not to consider Sahaja Yoga leadership to be just a project management tool. It's a subtle thing. It's something that when you take on that responsibility, you need to connect way harder than before, because you are responsible for the shots that you call, right?
Even though, if now the local leader will just come to my house and ask me how is my marriage going, maybe before I knew that it was really much like connected physically, we'll see Shimadaji more often, so I will tell him things so he could report them to Shimadaji. But now if you come to me and ask me this stuff, I'm like, who are you? There is also this.
I
There's also like,
agree, but if you think that we're supposed to be a family, then it doesn't work. It has to work the other way. Now, also, I think what is true to understand is that you don't need to talk about your marriage necessarily with the leader. You can talk with your older brother, but the leader need to be in touch with your older. You see what I mean? There's always tact and diplomacy and understanding. That's what I'm saying. We don't need to have an authoritarian, iron end in the leadership, but the person who's in leader should have their attention on the entire collective, and not necessarily because, I mean, imagine you're in India and one city has 20,000 yogis. You know, you just cannot speak to everyone, know about everyone. But you need to have 20 people that do their job for you, and then you constantly, you know, it's again, it's not so much what you do, is the awareness that you have while you do it.
My mind only makes it more complicated, and I only have more
More
tricky
questions.
questions. I only have tricky questions there, but this is a whole another
Well,
episode
hey,
about.
I'll note it down and we keep it for the next two episodes. You know, like for we'll bring in some leader from different countries, and we asking them of the challenges that they have in fulfilling this role.
We should also, because I feel like when we do like the surveys online, I don't seem that people want to have more knowledge about Saja Yoga. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
nobody really asked. For maybe one or two asked about the Ramayana following explained, part two.
Yeah,
Just two
yeah.
people. The other are like, what about marriages? What about leadership? We cannot go anywhere like this, you know.
Why can I not wear shorts?
Why? Yeah, sometimes.
No, it's fine, and I think any question is a good question, jokes aside. But
Definitely.
I get you, I get your point, and I agree on it. But again, you see, also to me is that these sorts of conversation doesn't have to always happen in a podcast. It could happen on a Saturday meeting after you go, and then after your chat, or you invite your friends home. Like, point is, if we are a family, I think what you described before is very important. If we are a family, we should act as such. If my brother is in trouble, I go and talk to them, and I'm direct, and I'm truthful about what I think and what things should be, right? So again, it's something is easy to say, it's not so easy to do. But definitely, again, we should put the attention toward this. I would feel.
Just to close, because it's
Yes.
been 1 hour now, and let's hope we don't want to cut anything. Going back to the Navaratri, my favorite name, actually, I haven't mentioned, is Shailaputri, also known as Girinandini, which takes the name of the bhajan. And
Okay.
and I really love she's the daughter of the mountain, if I'm not wrong, something like that.
Yeah, yeah. It's the first. I think when you say the Devi Kavach is the first one that comes, no?
I don't remember this.
Yeah,
Devika,
in
I don't
the
remember
first of the
this.
nine. Yeah,
Yeah, and I don't know. It's just probably my favorite, also because the daughter of the mountain. When my Shasura dies, then it doesn't end. You know, the devil, the major, the chief of the demons just died. What happens now? Everything is safe. No, Shumba and
yes,
Nishumba showed up,
yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And
yeah,
in other tricky way, if I'm not wrong, Ambika, like in a form of Ambika, which is like the goddess of which is kind of similar to Shalaputri, which is like the daughter of the mountain, showed up in the mountain because all the deities went to the Himalaya and started praying for her, praying for Shikali to
yeah.
show up again. And then she showed up in a form of Ambika, which is probably another name in the 1008
Another aspect. Yeah,
in another aspect. And she killed Shumba and Nishumba because one of them wanted to marry her, which is, again, as you mentioned, the attack toward
yeah,
chastity and towards women in general,
yeah.
which is a lesson that the demons never learn. Don't mess with the women.
Demons or politicians, both of them. Nowadays.
They don't
You
learn.
know?
They don't learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think, with all these names also that you throw, another thing that I found super interesting is that um, in the names of Sri Durga, uh, all the she is the slayer of all these demons, even the ones, for example, she's the slayer of Ravana. I found it interesting because when I read it, I'm like, oh, but wasn't it Sri Rama who killed Ravana, right? But then it explains that it was through her power that that killing was made possible. And the other one was exactly, I think, Narakasura Mardini, which eventually was killed by Sri Krishna, from what I read. But again, it was done through the power and the blessing that was given by her. So there is even the stories in which Sri Krishna or Sri Rama, or maybe I got wrong with the Narakasura, but the even when it's another deity that destroys later the demon, the name is added also to Sri Durga's list of names, because it is through her destroying power that this is done, right? Which goes back, feels like we're doing a second part of the Wheels of the Charioteer episode, but it's basically through the Shakti power that all of this gets done, right? It's the real power is through the Shakti, which I thought was very interesting, because again, when I made a list, which now I don't have with me, but of all the names in which Sri Durga destroyed the demons, and in some cases, basically, again, as in Ravana Mardini, it was Sri Rama who physically destroyed, but the power, the Shakti power, is also given to Sri Durga in her names, which I thought was very interesting.
But always feels like a collective action,
Yes,
because
yes,
all the male deities gave a weapon to her.
yes,
And then Shrimadaji was also Mahamaya, which is like mentioned in the
yes,
first chapter of the Devi Mahatmyam. She gave us all the instruments
yes,
to
yeah,
defeat like the negativity nowadays in the modern times.
exactly.
Just
And
feels a bit less epic, if I may,
yes,
because it's more subtle. So you don't
yeah,
have to go out there with an axe
yeah,
and
yeah,
stab something. Sadly, would be very fun.
yeah. Yes,
But
it's true.
we have all the instruments that the deities gave to her, that then she gave to us. You know,
Exactly.
I know it
And also,
feels like such an uncle moment of mine. The entire episode feels it's my transition to become an uncle. But
no, but this is it. I think also what you said is interesting, because ultimately what we keep saying is that how the deities intertwine their powers to bring victory, right? Which ultimately means also that the deities are actually one. We know that, right? The essence, the root of everything. There's one God, and then there's many aspects of it. And I think also all these stories, the way they are told and enacted, is for our uh, limited brain to absorb them, right? It's like when I explain math to my kids. I take 4 apples, and I'm like, Johnny has 2 apples. You know what I mean? And because if we were just given the knowledge of God in its entirety, it will just explode out of the cosmic being of God, right? So we need to get it instilled, but we should also not run through the mistake of separating the entities, because they are all the deities are one, and that's why their powers intertwine so much.
yeah, that's why also some aspect of the goddess that we actually end up venerating in these days, because this episode will be released during the 9 days, I think. Some are also related to the chakras that are above the sasana.
Exactly. And actually, now I don't remember this particular one, but if you read the many names of the deities, there are certain names that are actually the same exact name that repeats in many deities, like the same, physically same name. It's part of aspects of the different deities. Sometimes you catch it, it's like, oh, these I also read it on the other one. Again, because obviously it's the same root, it's the same essence.
Which is maybe the best way to introduce a huge sorry if we made any mistakes, but sometimes it get a bit confusing with the names, with the
Yeah,
reincarnations. And but I think we can close it. It's been 1 hour of recording, and we just wanted to I don't know, we didn't explain anything like in detail properly, because we don't have to explain stuff. You can go out there. First of all, if you want to have the real knowledge, listen to Shimadachi's speech and read to the epics. Then if you want to conversate with us, you can easily listen to such times and can make fun of us while we just get confused. But
Yes,
having
I
said that, yeah,
go
go for
go.
it.
No, no, I was about to say this is actually a yogi told me this a few months back, which I liked. Is like, because I was sharing a bit these ideas of wanting to share knowledge to the podcast as well, to point out the things that we like and bring attention to certain topics. And it's like, in the moment you start explaining Shimaraji's speeches, you're quickly walking a line where you're close to become a false guru, right? So
Mhm.
I really like what you said, which is for the pure knowledge, we all know where to go, right? It's called Nirmal Vidya Amruta, and you have all the speeches there. Uh, Likewise, we should all read the Devi Kavach, Devi Mahatmyam, and the names of the deities and enjoy it. For us, we will try throughout the year to do that and share with you what we enjoyed, or maybe sometimes even the questions that we have, things that we don't understand. Maybe there's somebody who can explain things to us through the comments or join the podcast. So I think it's a very good important point you made, which is again the whole point of the podcast is to have a good time to share, maybe bring attention to things that are important, but not in a teaching manner, but more in a we're having chai in the backstage of the kitchen in Cabela or Kanajari and having a good time together.
We don't want to explain anything because would be such a false guru type of behavior, and we want to reassure people that we are nice people, which is even more false guru behavior. I like I like how we do things. By the way, this was the first episode of the new season. I really hope that you liked. If you want to mention anything, if you want to correct anything, please leave a comment below. Here we are. I'm really present on social media, so if you text me, I will see everything. So feel free to do whatever, literally to do whatever you want. Also, not listen to us. It's not a problem. So thank you really much for listening. This was Sahaj Times podcast. We wish you a very intense, in a good way, Navaratri Puja.
See you soon. Bye,
See you
everyone.
soon. Bye.